Hello everyone, welcome back to the part number 4. So in this video we're gonna continue where we stopped in the last one. So in the last one we was able to create this handler of a register user, and we was able to print this payload, and this is the kind of stuff we receive when we try it from Postman. So when I did send here, right there we receive the email, the password, confirm password, and the username. So now, like I said in the last video, we do not make any kind of validation. What I do mean by that, it's here, when I'm gonna came here and I'm gonna send those payload to my register, I want to be able to, if my user sends something like bobmail.com with not a valid email, to receive an error, say, hey, error, email is not valid. And also I want to receive an error about the password, confirm password do not match. So how can we do this? You have many solutions. You can use a library for that. You can use other tool, but I just feel it's pretty simple case here in your case, and I think it would be better for us to just create that ourselves. So we're gonna learn a bit more about Golang. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start by creating a new file in the domain called validator. So this validator, what that's gonna be, we're gonna create the object first. So it's gonna be a struct, and this thing here, I want to be what we're gonna return to the JSON. So what I do mean is here, like I said, I want to return an object with each key to be the error and the value to be what is the error. So example, email colon is not valid. So what that means is here I want to have an errors property right there, who's going to be a map of string. This is what we want to return to become a key value JSON here. After that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a constructor who finally is going to be just take nothing. I don't want to get any argument, but what I want to do here is to make a map of string. So that's gonna create an empty map of string. So this constructor is just finally gonna return this validator, a new validator pointer, and that's gonna be nothing more. After that here, what I want to do is we're gonna create two methods first. I think it's gonna be better maybe if I show you. I'm gonna start with the first validation I'm gonna create. So here I'm gonna receive the v, and that's gonna be a pointer to the validator, and we're gonna create a first function called must be longer than. This thing gonna return a boolean. Here this must be longer than, we need to think about we need to think about what we want to send here and where we can do this validation. So what I want is I want to receive a field who's going to be like email, password, confirm password, stuff like that. I also want to receive his value. Both going to be a string, and because both are string like that, you can just put the string here for the after the second argument. And after also what I want is I'm going to call that I, and it's going to be an int. I could have named that Amon, but I think I is gonna make sense. It's just here, it's gonna be the number of the length of the string we wanted at least. So example, if I say I want the I to be 6, the value here need to be at least 6, or that don't gonna be a valid one. So here now, what I'm gonna do is, first thing, if the value it's an empty string, I'm going to return true. So it's going to be valid. And why I do this is because I don't want my must be longer than to work on those empty value, because I'm going to create another function called must not be empty, must be not empty. And I don't want this one to match, because what I mean by that is I want to be able to create this function only when I want to match the size, and I don't care, example, if it's empty or not. Here after that, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna check if the length of the value is smaller or equal to the height. smaller, sorry. And now here, what I'm gonna do is inside my validator, that error, I can put now an error with the field. So that's gonna be the key equal to an error I'm gonna create now. So now inside my error file, I'm gonna create a new struct called error not long enough. It's gonna be a struct. This struct gonna receive a field and we're gonna receive an amount. And now I want this error to become a type of error. And the way you can do this in Finally Go, it's because an error, it's an interface, and if I want to follow this interface, I just need to have a method called error who return a string. You're gonna see that right now. If example I have my error not long enough, which is gonna be a type of error and return a string, you see now I follow an interface and I follow the type error interface, who finally is the error built-in interface, etc. And this just need to return a method error who return a string. So now here, what I can do is I can return a fmt that print f, or finally I can format the error I want. So I'm gonna say %v not long enough %d character is required. So %v is just because I want to send the field. I can have put %s because it's going to be a string, but v is going to be enough for now. And I'm going to put the e amount, and the %d is for a number. So we are good because amount is an integer. So now what that means, it's now when we go back to the validator, I can say error not long enough, and now I can fill out the field. So field is going to be field, and the amount is going to be the height. And now because here it's a map of string, I can just finally say error right there. And after I'm going to return false, is not valid. And if I go further, I'm going to return true. The only issue is I always want my first error to get shown and not the latest one. What I do mean by that, it's example, if I have already an error, we say, hey, it should not be empty. I don't want this one to override this one. So that's why we're gonna need a check first. So we're gonna check if the v error field I have already an error. So what that means is if the error, example, if we check for the password, if we have already an error about the password, so if this thing return okay, so it exists, here I want to return false. So we want to stop it there. We don't want to override with the error we have here. Now here, how can we manage that in our case? So what we're gonna do is now we're gonna jump back to the out where we have the register payload. And now what we're gonna do is I want the register payload to have a method called isValid. This thing gonna return two things, a boolean and a map of string. Here, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create first my new validator. And now what I can do is I can do must be longer than. Now I can say I want my password. And now I can access the password by doing password, because you see now it's the value. And for the height, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put 6 for now, like that. So now you see how that's gonna work. It's gonna be pretty simple at the end of the day. It's just for the first one. So we can create also one for when it's I don't want it to be empty. So it's going to be almost the same logic. So we can have a field and a value. It's a string. We don't care about an amount because we're going to see if it's empty. Now that's the thing I don't like. It's that we need to copy and paste some code because we're going to need to always do this kind of check. But now if value, it's an empty string, I can say v error field, field equal. And now we're gonna create the error. Sorry about that. We do a lot of stuff, but when it's done, it's done, so we don't need that anymore. Error is required. Struck, receive a field as a string, and now here I can receive my error is required. It's gonna have a method called error. I'm gonna return a string, so now we follow the interface of error, and this thing we're gonna return a printf. What we're gonna say is require, and I'm past the field. Now after that, it's pretty simple. Now we can say error is required, and for the field we fill with the field, and we return the error because we want to match with a string. And finally here, that means it's not valid, else if we pass, we return true. So now by doing this, what that means is if we go to the out, I can say before we check if it's longer, I want also to check if it's not empty, like that. So now we can also do the same for the username, and we also can check if the username is bigger than, we're gonna say at least 3. Okay, now after that, what we want is we also want to check for a valid email. So the way that's gonna work in our validator, I'm gonna copy something and I'm gonna paste that inside the description, just because it's crazy it's crazy long. It's just a regex about checking for a valid email. I take that on Stack Overflow, and I think that was not even a question in Golang, it was just a regex about how to find an email, and I'm not even sure if I can explain everything here, but this is supposed to match for an email. And so we can create a function for that. So we can say if validator must be valid email, or we're gonna receive a field, and an email, it's gonna be a string. We are gonna return a boolean. Here again, I know we're gonna change it later, but for now we're gonna copy and paste some code. And now here what we can do is email regex that match string. So this thing gonna return a boolean, and you're gonna just say if this thing return a false. So if this thing return false, so that means it's not a valid email, we're gonna have a v error with the field, and now we're gonna have an error called error email bad format, and we're gonna create that error. But this one, because it's gonna be always the same pattern when it's not a bad email, I can just say error email bad format, and now here I can just say error that new email is not valid. So now here I can just return error email bad format, that error, return false, and return true. So now what that means, it's now we can jump back on the out where we have the register payload, and I want to do this check before the password. So I'm gonna say must not be empty email, or the email, and also must be a valid email. Well, I can just say like that. The reason why I put the field for the email, even if we always know it's gonna be an email, it's maybe later we're gonna want to call that like a admin email or whatever you want to call that. So it just also because I want to follow the same pattern. After that, here I want to check if my confirm password is not empty, and after that we're gonna do another check for that. But now here we need to return a boolean, and we need to return a map of string. So how can we return a boolean with all those things? It's because we need to finally update a bit our validator. And what I mean by that, it's we can create a method called from the validator is valid. This thing gonna return a boolean. And how can we know if the payload is valid? It's just by checking if the length of the error is 0. So if we have no error in the map, that means it's valid. So now if we jump back here, we can return v that is valid. And now for the map of string, we can just return that error like that. A lot of stuff, I know, don't worry, it's gonna be finished in a long time. Now here, what I want, if I jump back to my handler, I want to create a middleware where finally this is where we're gonna validate the payload. So for that, I'm gonna create a function called validate payload, where this one here gonna receive a next. So if you came again from Express and stuff like that, it's gonna be the same pattern. The next is gonna be kind of like the you want to continue the flow, so it's the next thing after that. This thing is gonna be an handler func. Right here, we're gonna also receive a payload. The thing is, Go it's a typing, it's a kind of a type, it's a strict type language, and because we do not have generic, we kind of need to make use of a lot of interface. And I know I can have put interface like that, okay? But what I want finally, it's I just want to receive a payload validation interface. This thing, the only thing I need here to make sure that it can be passed as a payload and follow this contract, you need to just have a method called isValid. We're gonna return a boolean with a map of string. And now if I do this, if I jump back to the out, now this one follow this contract. So now if I click here, sorry, you know it can be followed there. So now I can just say the payload is gonna be a payload validation, and this thing gonna need to return another func. I'm gonna return a func with a response writer. And now here we can do our job about validation. So the way that's gonna work, it's we're gonna remove some stuff, okay, from our other handler. So you remember here in the register, in the handler user, we do this JSON decoder and stuff like that, and I want to copy that, and I want that in my handler, because here that's going to be the place where we're going to decode the JSON. So the job of this middleware is going to be to decode the body to JSON and validate each field. That's it. So now here we decode the body to the payload, and the payload can be whatever can be whatever if it at least follow this payload validation. If we have no error, if we have an error when we decode, we send a bad request. And remember, the error is not from the payload but from the decoder. After that, here I'm gonna defer the body to be closed, and this thing is gonna close the body after finish, so you don't lose memory. And why I do this here, it's because from what I've read and from what I've seen, you wanted to make sure that you defer only if you didn't receive an error. So yeah, and remember, defer mean this function gonna be called when this full function is gonna be finished. So you don't care about like putting that at the bottom and stuff like that. After that, here we're gonna check if valid. If we have error from the payload, that is valid. Remember, this thing return a boolean and a map of string, so I call the boolean valid and error. I can have called that is valid like that. And now, if is not valid, we're gonna return a JSON response where I need to pass the W for the response writer. I want to pass the error, and also the status code is gonna be bad request. And now I can return, and I'm gonna stop that. And finally here, now we're gonna use context. So context gonna, if you came from Express, it's kind of the same ish way. It's just you have a context who follow everything. So example, in some of our tutorial in GraphQL, we did have a context where you have authorization inside that, the user authorization. If you use passport, they inject the user inside the context, and after that you can receive it when you do like rec that user and stuff like that. So it's almost the same pattern. So now here we're gonna use the context with value. And where did it import it? Yeah, from context, because it's a built-in. And now here I'm gonna add the error.context. So the request have a context already. And now here, what that means, so all this code here, what that means is I want to inject to this kind of context. So to inject to this context, a new key called payload, who's gonna be this payload. And now finally, how we can return it, it's by calling next, who have this serve HTTP response, serve HTTP function. Who now I can just pass it my response writer, so we can follow that to the next one. But now for the request, this request now is gonna be with this new version of the context. So now that means I'm gonna be able to use this payload everywhere in my log. So now, if we jump back to the user, here, register user. Now, what I'm gonna do, okay, be ready because we're gonna have some change. I'm gonna delete that. We don't need that anymore because it's gonna be done already by the middleware. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pass this payload at the top, because remember it's a closure here, so I can do whatever here, and I can have can do stuff right now. Now, just because I don't like to like this, I'm gonna just create a var who's gonna be register payload. And now here I'm gonna delete this thing, okay, because I'm gonna change that to become now validate payload, the middleware we just create. Now this one here, as you can see, you need to receive a handle func. So now I can see more, my writer like that. And now here it's where we can do the logic, but now you see it's all red because the validate payload need two arguments, need the next, which is now this function, and also need the payload we want to push it. And now this is where I can set my payload like that. Now here, if I fmt print payload, and now I'm gonna receive the payload right there. Now look what we're gonna do. I'm gonna jump back to Postman, and now I'm gonna send something. Connection refused. Okay, and now you see what I received. Email is not valid. Example, if I send like that, now I'm receiving email is not valid. I should receive other function also. One sec. Okay, now we receive password is required. If we check also for the confirm password, password is required like that. And now if we have the username is required. You see now you need all the thing. If I at least put the username with the 3, now we see username do not have any more an error. Password, it's okay also, and confirm password, it's okay also. And now for my email, if I say I read email, now you work, and now you see I get my payload print right there. Now we did get some issue because when the thing do not exist, example like I show you, this username is not there. I want this username to appear, so that's gonna be a fix we're gonna need to think about in the next video. You see it's not gonna be a big one. The only issue we still have now is to explain what everything we've done. Also here I can have don't put this in the context. You're gonna see why in some other video, because as you can see we do not need the context when we check from here, because when we do the payload from here, the payload here receive, because he received the element from that already. So yeah, so this is what we're gonna fix in the next video. You're gonna see how we can make it much more simpler, because now we have some bad logic there, but at least I hope you have learned a bit about what you can do with Go, and how simple is that. I mean, you can do this with JavaScript, whatever. You just now, at least you know a bit how you can kind of validate your field, and you've learned also a bit about this middleware. So like I have told you, in Express you have your next function. So this function is working just before the one you have the one you want to use. For example, here this validate payload was working just before this function we create here. We can also use it in Chai. I just feel it's much cleaner here. So this is what we're gonna talk about in the next video. I hope you enjoy, and we're gonna jump on this one next. Bye.